Over the weekend, the vultures got into the presidential palace by pecking through the screens on the balcony windows, and the flapping of their wings stirred up the stagnant time inside. And at dawn on Monday, the city awoke out of its lethargy of centuries with the warm, soft breeze of a great man dead and rotting grandeur. Only then did we dare go in without attacking the crumbling walls of reinforced stone as the more resolute had wished, and without using ox bows to knock the main door off its hinges as others had proposed, because all that was needed was for someone to give a push, and the great armoured doors that had resisted the Lombards of William Dampier during the building's heroic days gave way. It was like entering the atmosphere of another age, because the air was thinner in the rubble pits of the vast lair of power, and the silence was more ancient, and the things were hard to see in the decrepit light. All across the first courtyard, where the paving stones had given way to the underground thrust of weeds, we saw the disorder of the post of the guard who had fled, the weapons abandoned in their racks, the big, long, rough planked tables with plates containing the leftovers of the Sunday lunch that had been interrupted by panic. In shadows we saw the annex where Government House had been, coloured fungi and pale irises among the unresolved briefs whose normal course had been slower than the pace of the driest of lives. In the centre of the courtyard we saw the baptismal font where more than 5 generations had been christened with martial sacraments. In the rear we saw the ancient vice-regal stable which had been transformed into a coach house, and among the camellias and butterflies we saw the berlin from stirring days, the wagon from the time of the plague, the coach from the year of the comet, the hearse from progress in order, the sleepwalking limousine of the first century of peace, all in good shape under the dusty cobwebs and all painted with the colours of the flag. In the next courtyard, behind an iron grill, were the lunar dust-covered rose bushes under which the lepers had slept during the great days of the house, and they had proliferated to such a degree in their abandonment that there was scarcely an odourless chink in that atmosphere of roses which mingled with the stench that came to us from the rear of the garden, and the stink of the hen house, and the smell of dung and urine, ferment of cows and soldiers from the colonial basilica that had been converted into a milking barn. Opening a way through the asphyxiating growth, we saw the arches of the gallery, with potted carnations and sprigs of astromelias and pansies, where the concubines' quarters had been. And from the variety of domestic leftovers and the quantity of sewing machines, we thought it possible that more than 1,000 women had lived there with their crews of 7-month runts. We saw the battlefield disorder of the kitchens, clothes rotting in the sun by the wash basins, the open slit trench shared by concubines and soldiers. And in back, we saw the Babylonian willows that had been carried alive from Asia Minor in great sea-going hothouses with their own soil, their sap and their drizzle. And behind the willows, we saw Government House, immense and sad, where the vultures were still entering through the chipped blinds. Gabriel Garcia Marquez was a Colombian novelist, short story writer, screenwriter and journalist. Garcia Marquez, familiarly known as Gebo in his native country, was considered one of the most significant authors of the 20th century. In 1982, he was awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature. He studied at the University of Bogota and later worked as a reporter for the Colombian newspaper El Espectador and as a foreign correspondent in Rome, Paris, Barcelona, Caracas and New York. He wrote many acclaimed non-fiction works and short stories, but he is best known for his novels such as 100 Years of Solitude, 1967, and Love in the Time of Cholera, 1985. His works have achieved significant critical acclaim and widespread commercial success, most notably for popularizing a literary style labeled as magical realism, which uses magical elements and events in order to explain real experiences. Some of his works are set in a fictional village called Macondo, and most of them express the theme of solitude. Having previously written shorter fiction and screenplays, Garcia Marquez sequestered himself away in his Mexico City home for an extended period of time to complete his novel Cien Años de Soledad, or 100 Years of Solitude, published in 1967. Garcia Marquez is credited with helping introduce an array of readers to magical realism, a genre that combines more conventional storytelling forms with vivid layers of fantasy. Another one of his novels, El Amor en los Tiempos del Cólera, 1985, or Love in the Time of Cholera, drew a large global audience as well. The work was partially based on his parents' courtship and was adapted into a 2007 film starring Xavier Bardem. Garcia Marquez wrote 7 novels during his life, with additional titles that include El General en su Laberinto, 1989, or The General in His Labyrinth, and Del Amor y Otros Demonios, 1994, or Of Love and Other Demons. An old man with no destiny, without ever knowing who he was or what he was like, or even if he was only a figment of the imagination. A comic tyrant who never knew where the reverse side was and where the right of this life, which we loved with an insatiable passion that you never dared even to imagine, out of the fear of knowing what we knew only too well, that it was arduous and ephemeral, but there wasn't any other general, because we knew who we were while he was left, never knowing it, forever with the soft whistle of his rupture, of a dead old man cut off at the roots by the slash of death, flying through the dark sound of the last frozen leaves of his autumn toward the homeland of shadows, of the truth of oblivion, clinging to his fear of the rotting cloth of death's hooded cassock, and alien to the clamour of the frantic crowds who took to the streets, singing hymns of joy at the jubilant news of his death. and alien forevermore to the music of liberation and the rockets of jubilation and the bells of glory that announce to the world the good news that the uncountable time of eternity had come to an end. As he discovered in the course of his uncountable years that a lie is more comfortable than doubt, more useful than love, more lasting than truth. And yet we didn't believe it now that it was, and not because we really didn't believe it, but because we no longer wanted it to be true. We had ended up not understanding what would become of us without him, what would become of our lives after him. They brought the Bible and syphilis. They made people believe that life was easy, Mother, that everything is gotten with money, that blacks carry a contagion. They tried to convince our soldiers that the nation is a business and that the sense of honour is a brother invented by the government so that soldiers would fight for free. God damn it, he shouted. Either them or me, he shouted, and it was them, because before dawn he ordered them to put the children in a barge loaded with cement, take them singing to the limits of the territorial waters, blow them up with a dynamite charge without giving them time to suffer as they kept on singing. And when the 3 officers who carried out the crime came to attention before him with news, General Sir, that his order had been carried out, he promoted them 2 grades and decorated them with the Medal of Loyalty. But then he had them shot without honours as common criminals, because there were orders that can be given but which cannot be carried out. God damn it, poor children. That his spirits were slipping away as he sat on the toilet, pushing out his soul, drop by drop, as through a filter thickened by the mould of so many nights of solitary urination, that his memory was unravelling, that he was not really sure, that he knew who was who or from whom, and the mercy of an inescapable fate in that pitiful house. We grew accustomed to believe that he was alive in the house of power because someone had seen him light the Chinese lanterns at some festival. Someone had told about seeing his sad eyes, his pale lips, his pensive hand waving through the liturgical decorations of the presidential coach. In Evil Hour, La Mala Horror is a novel by Colombian writer Gabriel Garcia Marquez, first published in an edition disowned by the author in 1962. Written while Garcia Marquez lived in Paris, the story was originally entitled Este Pueblo de Merda, This Town of Shit, or This Shitty Town. Rewritten, it won a literary prize in Colombia. Some of the same characters and situations found in La Mala Horror later reappear in Cien Aso de Soledad. In Evil Hour takes place in a nameless Colombian village. Someone has been placing satirical pasquinades, meaning posters, about the town, outlining the locals' shameful secrets. Some dismiss these as common gossip. However, when a man kills his wife's supposed lover after reading of her infidelity, the mayor decides that action is called for. He declares martial law and sends soldiers, who are actually armed thugs, to patrol the streets. He also uses the state of unrest as an excuse to crack down on his political enemies. In evil hour, the rain was falling thick, cold and monotonous. Shame has poor memory. The darkness enveloped their souls and blinded them to the truth. Hope was but a fleeting illusion in the hearts of the oppressed. The poison of prejudice seeped into the hearts of the naive. The art of deception was perfected, fooling even the most discerning eyes. The wounds of the past reopened, pouring out the pain of generations. On his twilight walk, Father Angel felt certain that all afternoon he'd been followed by an autumnal fragrance. At Trinidad's house, while he kept up a sad conversation about the infirmities of October, he thought he identified the smell that Rebecca Aziz had exhaled in his study one night. On his way back, he'd visited Mr. Carmichael's family. The wife and eldest daughter were disconsolate, and whenever they mentioned the prisoner's name, they hit a false note. But the children were happy without their papa's severity, trying to make the pair of rabbits that the widow Montiel had sent them drink from a glass. Suddenly, Father Angel had interrupted the conversation and, making a sign in the air, had said, "Now I know, it's wolfsbane." But it wasn't wolfsbane. Nobody talked about the lampoons. In the hubbub of the latest happenings, they were nothing but a picturesque anecdote of the past. Father Angel had proof of it during his evening walk and after prayers, chatting in his study with a group of Catholic dames. When he was alone, he felt hungry. He prepared himself some fried green banana slices and coffee with milk and accompanied it with a piece of cheese. The satisfaction of his stomach made him forget the smell. While he was getting undressed to go to bed and then inside the netting, hunting the mosquitoes that had survived the insecticide, he belched several times. He had acid, but his spirit was at peace. He slept like a saint. He heard in the silence of the curfew the emotional whispers, the preliminary testing of the chords tempered by the icy dawn, and lastly a song from another time. At 10 minutes to 5 he realized that he was alive. He sat up with a solemn effort, rubbing his eyelids with his fingers, and thought, Friday, October 21. Then he remembered aloud, Saint Hilary. He got dressed without washing or praying. Having corrected the long buttoning of his cassock, he put on the cracked boots for everyday wear, whose soles were becoming detached. On opening the door to the spikenards, he remembered the words of a song. I'll be in your dreams till death, he sighed. Nina pushed open the door of the church while he was giving the first ring. She went to the baptistery and found the cheese intact and the trap still set. Father Angel finished opening the door onto the square. "Bad luck," Mina said, shaking the empty cardboard box. "Not a single one fell today." But Father Angel didn't pay any attention. A brilliant day was breaking with pure, clean air, like an announcement that in that year too, in spite of everything, December would be punctual. Pastor's silence had never seemed more definitive to him. "There was a serenade last night," he said. "Of lead," Mina confirmed. "There was shooting until just a little while ago." The priest looked at her for the first time. She, too, extremely pale like her blind grandmother, wore the blue sash of a lay congregant. But unlike Trinidad, who had a masculine air, a woman was beginning to mature in her. "Where?" "All over," Mina said. "It seems they were going crazy looking for clandestine flyers. They say they lifted up the flooring of the barber shop just by chance and they found guns. The jail is full, but they say men are going into the jungle to join up with guerrilla bands." Father Angel sighed. "I didn't notice anything," he said. He walked toward the back of the church. She followed him in silence to the main altar. "And that isn't anything," Mina said. "Last night, in spite of the curfew and in spite of the shooting," Father Angel stopped. He turned his parsimonious eyes of innocent blue toward her. Mina also stopped, with the empty box under her arm, and she started a nervous smile before finishing the sentence.
I'm home. All the time. Finally, really did it. You maniac! You blew it up! Oh, damn you! God damn you all to hell!